Alrighty. Hello, everyone. Continuing on today. Gravity's Rainbow. I want to start this video today with a poem. Or what? Yeah, it's a poem. One that I wrote thinking about things that I've read, where I've been, the usual. Started last night. The good thoughts always come either in the shower or in ruminations before bed. So this one is called Taking Stock, and I have not read it yet, so bear with me on the delivery. Everyone I can think of does it. Used to make me feel so comfortable. Sweet relief. For the sweetest reliefs are preserved by way of normalcy. There's this seemingly ever-apparent line, that squiggly one, which I represent, serving to separate use of phenomena such as courage or cowardice. If only the legal weed legislation could just move itself along. I've not got forever. When illicit becomes commonplace, I no longer have to hide. Or what's that? Should I reconsider? Certain significances lie in such transformations. I got my governed ID card, shelled out the fee. Now the dispensary clerks can proceed. Butter me up. A spin from the weekly prize wheel. $250 out the door. Also, now a lucky winner of a pack of raw cones. As long as the powers that be tell me it is okay, then how could I not be okay? What is the reason for the boiling stew of confliction residing within my core, for it makes no sense? I will, others will, enable myself, themselves. Justification requires no questions, just. So to ease, if I hush one of two guidance sources, inner or outer authority, contradiction cannot appear. Inner intuition, outer institution. Volume balance of these two is a worthy adventure. One begs for grit, the other proclaims, fuck it. I've been the very own, one and only, hero and villain of my own storybook. Clues trickle down from future to now. Used to make me feel so comfy, knowing choices of now are invisible to others, yet graced with realization that if they do not show immediately, they will eventually. Who's got inventory today? So, that one sparked from thoughts which have accompanied my becoming sober from drugs, first of all, quitting drinking and smoking marijuana, quitting use of nicotine after 10 or so years, and the sort of commonplace social interaction that takes place as a result of doing those things. One being, for example, if I'm invited to go hang out with people at a place where people drink regularly, it's not uncommon for someone to offer to not drink in front of me for the purpose of not making me uncomfortable. But what I came to realize is that unless I'm able to be comfortable within, in regard to the choice that I have decided to make, which is that I'm not drinking, regardless of what people around me are doing, it shouldn't be an issue. And this is something that's been very hard for me to grasp, just generally in life. And it's not something new. It's something that kind of plays into everything. And that poem that I wrote is largely about how in the society we live in, at this point at least, it seems that it's almost gotten more common that the more often someone realizes or is reminded that other people do one certain thing, that it's common, they don't seem to question it. And when I say they, I guess I'm speaking for myself. There are so many examples in my history of when, I would think to myself, most of the people that I know do this, so what could be wrong with it? I think one of the earliest examples I can remember, which struck me as significant when it happened, and now looking back on it, how it's affected me and what I've learned from it, is when I discovered that my dad used marijuana as a kid, later in high school, and how that affected me greatly, because it kind of blew my mind, because my dad was always my, strongest role model. He's always been very, very strong, which I admire, because this life demands strength. This life demands strength day after day after day. It demands acknowledgement of weakness also, but it demands that you get back up after you fall down. The acknowledgement of weakness is the not trying to pretend as if you don't fall down. I guess that's how I would put it. It's as if we all fall down, and those who don't see it as important to recognize will pretend as if they don't, or they will do everything in their power to hide it when they do. And sometimes it's impossible to hide. So I guess the topic of enablement is a good one for today. And in this book, I definitely see it coming up. It follows a number of different groups of people, and I guess how war often works. It's one group or multiple groups against others, and they band together. What they all agree upon and what they all practice could not be wrong, but what the other group agrees upon and practices is always wrong. And what I've appreciated about the book is that it goes to a depth where you can start to see even the characters that band together within the same group start to question the own members of their group. When one very prominent leader figure slips up, everyone considers, what is going on here? Who do we need to call to address this? And it's just, there's a lot of humor in it. There's a lot of, kind of harsh, bitter truth, but that's why I like it so far. I would say the first quarter of the book, I'm approaching halfway through it now, but the first quarter of the book, I had a bit of trouble digesting it without taking it too personally, I guess. It was making me feel uneasy. But now it's kind of, I get the gist of it, at least I think I do. And I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to learn from it. So I guess a theme that I tried to include in the poem that I wrote was that, yes, while we enable ourselves and others, do both good things and bad things. Things that help us, things that help others, and the opposite. I guess that's part of the deal. The idea is that we all learn from one another. We learn from ourselves and we learn from one another. And I stated in the poem that I have been the one and only hero and villain in my own storybook. Is so odd, but it feels so true, because I can never use another person's actions as a true reason for why I react in a certain way. I guess when it comes to reactions that would do me poorly and do others poorly, and it's so easy to take actions of another personally, especially when it affects the physical world we live in. So I think that's where it gets really tricky. But the idea that I hope to get across in the poem is that it's a challenge to figure out how and identify how you are enabling yourself, and it's a challenge to stand up to those who you love, who enable you as well. That's one of the dark realities of being a human being, is that no one really wants to admit it, but it makes us more comfortable in our skin when we know that we're doing something that's not the best, to enable another person to do it, because if we band together, we feel less poorly about our decisions. If someone's doing it with us, what's wrong with it? And I think tying it back to where we are now, collectively as humanity, collectively as society, it's pretty easy to tell that there's a lot of that going on. Our political figures perhaps have always been memes to an extent, but it's to the point where they have stooped to such a low level that it's just simple jabs at one another, and it's for the purpose of entertainment and humor, because that's what the people want. Nothing to me is very much so a surprise, because it all makes sense. It makes sense why we're sitting here on the day of the second inauguration of Donald Trump, and a lot of people are confused, but it makes complete sense. Donald Trump was reelected. Who knows if anything went on beneath the surface? None of us are going to be figuring that out. But Donald Trump speaks the language of the common person. And the common person is the one who sits on their phone all day looking at memes and jokes. I went through school, and my first cell phone I got in 7th grade. I'm now in grad school, and from 7th grade on, it became increasingly more common for people to be distracted in school by entertainment. Everything is entertainment value. Follow the money. The money goes where the entertainment is generated. And the entertainment is in forms of poking fun. It's in forms of sexual, sexual freedom, increased sexual expression. And this is a point that I'll get into probably in another video, but the whole idea behind freedom of speech, I think, has become so twisted for the purpose of sales. It's not so much that... It seems to me that people don't see the limit to the concept of freedom in and of itself. Yes, I sit here in many, many, many ways free, but in many, many other ways, I'm not. And the law existing as the law states that freedom of speech has a limit. You can't go around saying anything that you want. It's not true. It's a illusion. But I guess the topic of today is enablement. So what I'm really trying to pay attention to in my life today is putting myself around people who focus on fighting against the temptation to feed into enablement of both themselves and others. And I'm putting myself around people who, when they enable me and I speak out against it, that they're willing to hear me out and remain around me instead of shunning me. And if the latter happens, if I'm shunned for, speaking up against what comes easy, then it's time for me to separate myself. And I think the trickiest part about this is that there's always this requirement to practice humility, which is acknowledgement that it still happens. I still enable myself here and there. I still enable other people in moments of weakness, and I have moments of weakness, and I think I forever will, but it's something I can practice and I can get better at. I heard one of my friends recently said that it's called practice because you have to try to do it. It's not something that comes easy. It's not something that comes naturally. You must practice something that you are not good at to get better at it. And it's how practice is defined. Which, just a little thought, I think is really interesting when it comes to the medical world, how doctors, psychologists, etc., run their own practices. If you pay attention to the language there, it's pretty cool because you have to acknowledge that these people are human. And in a eerie sense, you are, an experiment of society, an experiment of science, an experiment of medicine. But for many, many reasons, we can be grateful for that too. Everything in this life comes with a price. Comes at a price. I'm trying to think, were there any other moments in this book that have stood out recently? I guess I'll just repeat my praise of Thomas Pynchon's ability to illustrate such a loony, wacky scene in each little chapter. There's a lot of just, I feel like I'm watching some like hallucinogenic movie set long ago, but also very pertinent to now. So it's very interesting. If you've got patience to get through certain parts that are harder, and kind of put up with these really challenging sections, I think it's worth it because it does kind of tie together as you go along. Anyways, I'm grateful for life today. I am choosing love, and I'm looking to my intuition for guidance and not so much what other people tell me I need to do. And it's really hard. It's a daily fight. But it's also exciting because I don't know what to expect. I'm going into this kind of aware that I could end up severely burned, but I think the faith part of it is that it's going to work out how it's meant to work out, and I don't get to choose that. God, the universe, higher power, a being beyond our ability to conceive, the reason why I exist and am sitting here and don't understand. That's pretty cool stuff. Anyways, I'm gonna continue. Breathe in a little bit. Just starting section 3. Section 3, titled In the Zone, opens with, Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore. Ellipses, says Dorothy, arriving in Oz. So you know it's going to be good. good stuff. Graduate group today had no class because it is Martin Luther King Day. So, extra writing, extra reading, using the able body, which I'm grateful to have, to exercise, and got some groceries. Going to cook up some good nourishment tonight and prepare for internship day 2 tomorrow, which hopefully consists of more than iPad training, but we shall find out. Until next time, everyone.